So, one of my questions, I remember reading from some spiritual teacher, as we evolve, they phrased it as, we are able to learn and grow through more and more joyful experiences and fewer challenging or painful experiences. So I was thinking of that in regards to your teachings. So contrast creates expansion. But if I'm more and more often in the vortex as time goes on, and I'm drawing in more and more of that positive energy, then am I, or are we, is one, able to regularly be expanding powerfully, but with less and less contrast needed? Does that make sense?
The question is a good question, and we understand the premise from which the earlier statement was made. But consider this. If you are not consciously aware of emotion and what it means, and you are not deliberately aware of the grid as we are describing it today, so you are observing and not observing deliberately, just observing, and things are getting bigger and bigger, so that you know what you don't want, and you know what you do want, and then you really know what you don't want, and then you really know what you do want, and then you really know what you don't want, and you really do not know what you do want.
Yeah.
Your ability to discern and feel that vibrational spread is whatever it is. So what we are suggesting, we'll make our statement first, and then we'll walk through it until you understand all the depths and levels of what we are meaning by it. Your ability to, everything is perceptual. So if you're not delicately focused on vibration and reaching for subtle improvements, then the larger vibration is necessary for you to understand. It's like it's bigger and bulkier and needs to be. It's a little bit like little children like to stack up bigger toys. They like to play with those big square colored blocks because they can manage them. And later they want Legos. And later they want itsy bitsy Legos. Where in the beginning, and who gets to decide if you were watching someone new at the stacking process, taking pleasure from the bulkier blocks, or if you were watching someone more evolved in the stacking process and they're using more refined nuances or blocks, who gets to decide what the level of pleasure is? And if you are evaluating, as we always are, the perfection of a moment or the success of a moment by how it feels. So did that sort of make sense in relationship to the question? In other words, we would far rather that you have contrast in order to find discernment than contrast in order to find discernment. But once you've found the discernment, you will feel as much contrast in, as much emotion in small contrast as you earlier did in large contrast.
Okay.
So the premise of the question and answer are not quite valid with the laws of the universe as we know them to be. You see, You see what we're getting at?
Yeah.
Of course, we want you. What you really are reaching for is balance. If you are overwhelmed, then you want more peaceful life. But if you've got a really peaceful life, then you're bored and you want something more stimulating. And if you get too much that's stimulating, then you want a more peaceful life. But if you have too peaceful of a life, then you get bored and you want something that's more stimulating. And so this contrast is something that is always coming to you based upon what you've got going with your grid. Yes, you can become more deliberate, and yes, you will feel more satisfaction the more deliberate you become. This is a question that has been put to us many, many times over the years. This business of how deliberate am I supposed to be is the question. In the beginning, we began by saying you create your own reality and you are the attractor of your own experience. And so you want to be a deliberate creator. You want to think deliberately. And then later, as we visited with so many of you for a while who were now getting very deliberate about what you want, we began putting more emphasis on the allowing part of it, because you were identifying what you wanted, but you were not up to speed with what you wanted. And so you were creating more of a crevasse between where you were and what you wanted, which was uncomfortable. So then we began offering words to help you to close that gap. In fact, every process that we've ever offered, and there are hundreds of them in past, present, and future experience coming, that every process that we've ever offered is about closing that gap, which is sort of what this question was about. How much contrast do I need to endure is sort of the way the physical question comes. How much contrast do I need to endure in order to be the best deliberate creator that I can be? And we say, you get to choose all of it. And if the basis of your life is how good you feel, then you'll be able to work it out. You'll be able to figure it out. Everything all right?
Yeah, and I thought of a particular example, desiring an extraordinary partnership with a man. And so I can regularly watch those movies, for example, or the television shows where beautiful partnerships are being created and experienced. Or I can have more of my experience in being around, noticing or giving more attention to the couples that are fighting, regularly in conflict, right? That gives me an example of what I don't want, creating greater clarity for what I do want, or I can just regularly be tuning into what I do want, giving myself examples of what I directly want for myself.
We're going to visit with them. What's happening? You want us both to be in the same place? Only one camera is with me? No point in wasting words on ears alone. Is the camera on us? Now? You can get us?